Sandy strode over to him and hooked her arm around his waist and pinched his ass. "Baby, you're the one that I want," Danny said. "Danny! Sandy!" Danny yelled, throwing his arms around her. "I got chills. I'm trembling a lot. I'm nervous and hot. Sandy! I'm all choked up. Oh. Hello there, lovers. Welcome to my humble abode. As you already know, I'm Love Dr. Jordan Breeden, and sometimes in private, my wife calls me Jordy Bear. It's because I eat a lot of salmon. You've been invited to partake in a special sexy episode of Your Brain on Crack, the show where I invite select strangers into my home after work so I can read to them, and the only show on Cracked with erectile overfunction, electrolytes. Tonight, I sensually discuss. Most movie novelizations are garish cash grabs that ruin the source film and challenge the entire concept of cinema as entertainment, but there's an entire novelization subgenre many don't know about, where some pervy crackhead transforms a normal movie into pure literary sex, so get your kids out of here. Strap something on, and we're gonna dig into some of those latter novelizations, and fair warning, they are uncomfortable. Shockingly, the novelization for Rambo First Blood Part 2 third draft number 4 in my heart is written by the actual author of the book the original Rambo movie was based on. And as a proper author, David Morrell was never going to be satisfied with simply following the movie's plot and writing pew 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 for 200 pages. Instead, he focuses on fleshing out the characters he created and knows so well. Like, for example, did you know that in Rambo 2, every character secretly sports a throbbing erection? When our hero first sneaks into the enemy camp and is almost spotted by a spotlight, Morrell tells us Rambo's scrotum shrank. It's not clear whether this was out of fear or just a natural reflex to give him smaller profile for increased stealth. On the other side of camp, a Vietnamese soldier defending the base from Rambo's expressive junk encounters a nice girl on a bike. Unfortunately, she is such a penis-arousing woman that the sight of her made him almost ejaculate in his uniform. Fortunately, through the sort of iron willpower only a true warrior can achieve, his romantic reaction is reduced to a mere stain at the crotch of his pants. Poetry.
You not forget me.
No.
Later on, in one of the movie's most famous scenes, Rambo and his Ramballs are tortured by Russian soldiers. Now, the camera only shows audiences a steely-eyed patriot enduring electrocution for his country. But the book takes a trip down south. Note that despite his stoic face, readers should be aware of Rambo's scrotum tensing against his abdomen.
There is no shame.
And speaking of shocks to the system, when Rambo's Soviet nemesis gets a taste of his own electroshock therapy, the shocks made his penis become erect and ejaculate. At least now we know how Rambo chooses his guns. Vibration strength. Face Off the movie explores the wild antics that might result from slapping Nick Cage's fleshy face onto John Travolta's fleshier body and vice versa. But even a movie that crazy still has some boundaries. The novelization? Not so much. After FBI agent Sean Archer dons the face of terrorist Castor Troy, he has to practice his personality, which is unfortunate for Archer because the novel decides he isn't so much a tough crime fighter as an 11-year-old dork struggling to adapt to an adult lifestyle.
Clearly he's had a traumatic childhood.
See, Archer drank wine on special occasions, but he never drank liquor. And that's a problem because Castor loves mezcal, but to Archer it tasted like shoe polish, and he couldn't help but shudder as it burned down his throat. And even if Archer could work around hating the taste, there's no way around how 1 drink of it made him woozy and 2 made him drunk.
Excuse me, I have to use the little boy's wee-wee room.
Archer's inability to drink 2 shots of Mexican liquor without drunk dialing his ex is a real problem too, because sometimes people smoke while drinking, yet smoking even a single cigarette weakened Archer and made him want to vomit. Remember, this guy who pukes and passes out after a thimble of Bud Light and half a Marlboro is about to infiltrate a federal prison and pass as one of the world's most dangerous criminals.
No more drugs for that man.
And even then, it's only if he overcomes the formidable challenge of having chest hair, specifically how he had caught it in the zipper of his sweatshirt several times and found sleeping on his stomach to be an itchy experience.
If you can put this back after all this is over.
But while Archer struggles to put on clothes like a big boy and nap without crying, Castor Troy effortlessly slips into his role. Literally.
But you were...
In a coma?
That night, Castor tapped into Eve's sexual hunger, which seemed insatiable. By fully concentrating on her needs and pleasures, he brought her to the point where she reciprocated for him and found herself a newly devout worshiper at the altar of his sex. Later still, after they slept for a while, spoon fashion, he woke her, began anew, then sent her back to sleep, happy and exhausted. You'd expect Mrs. Archer to notice something different about her husband, given his entire body's 100% different from the neck down, but all she perceives is a newfound level of wiener proficiency and surprising horsepower.
You know, I can eat a peach for hours.
After all, something had unleashed a gorgeous animal trapped in her husband, a beast whose churning tongue and strong fingers entered her and made her shiver in ecstasy.
While we're talking, do you have protection?
But hey, at least Archer gets some measure of revenge by heading to Castor's mom's house and just letting her dunk her fingers in some white goo so she can massage his toes with some Jersey maids. So yeah. It is much harder watching it end a face-off knowing that Archer's wife will never again be sexually satisfied thanks to her nights spent sleeping spoon fashion with a man sporting natural chest hair and a tongue so powerful it can make butter.
Whee! What a predicament!
But at least her husband's toes are a little better moisturized than they were, so hopefully she's a foot lady.
Well, you're damn well gonna try.
The original Halloween stands out amongst thousands of films about sexy babysitters getting slashed to death because of director John Carpenter's commitment to leaving the serial killer an unexplained enigma. Unfortunately, the original Halloween paperback by Richard Curtis, who wrote under the pseudonym Curtis Richard, just to give you a little taste of his creative talents, didn't just give Mike Myers an origin story, he gave him a supernatural, perverted origin story. The novel begins by transporting the reader to ancient Ireland, where a disabled boy named Enda is rejected by the woman of his dreams because he isn't a lad worthy of that wench's pretty hole.
What's the pumpkin for?
And Enda responds well by brutally stabbing her in the boob. Ugh, young love. As punishment, he is then executed and cursed by shamans to roam the earth till the end of time, reliving thy foul deed and thy foul punishment. Except, how exactly is this bad for Enda? They're forcing him to reincarnate into other lonely pervs and continue murdering beautiful teenagers, but that's like cursing the Trix rabbit to forever eat Trix yogurt. That's literally his favorite thing.
No tricks for Annie tonight.
A couple thousand years later, Michael Myers catches Enda's ancient Celtic serial killer herpes and spends his days creeping on his sister and pinching her boobs or ass. Because he's not a man to mix his meats. And this is where we realize, Richards must be pretty fascinated with 15-year-old boobs and how they flattened when Judy Myers brought the brush to her head and then rounded and filled again when the brush reached the bottom of its stroke.
I always said you'd make a fabulous Girl Scout.
Never let it be said that Richards half-assed his novels. A little later, Michael, writing an incest boner high, murders his sister by, you guessed it, shoving a knife into her right breast.
I knew it!
And while the rest of the book plays out like the movie, the tone is forever altered thanks to Curtis devoting a prologue and a whopping 4 chapters to the adventures of teen girls' breasts.
I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Well, we've conversed about Rambo's inability to walk through a door sideways, conferred about the struggles of napping while also a man, and made myself positively famished for yogurt. I think that's enough for tonight. Well, as you leave, feel free to rummage through the bathroom medicine cabinet on your way out to see if there are any drugs for your what? Coronavirus? Holy hell, get out of my house! Hey there, all you cool cats and kittens. It's Jordan Breeding here from Big Cat Rescue. I just wanted you to hit like and subscribe, or else I'll kill a tiger.